Have you ever landed a jump? Maybe 5 times, maybe 10 times, maybe all week. And then you walk into the rink the next day and suddenly you couldn't land it once. And you start asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Did I lose it? Why is everyone else improving when I'm struggling? I'm falling behind. I'll never get it. Maybe your coach is asking you to keep trying. Maybe your parents tell you to stay positive. But inside your own head, you're frustrated, you're embarrassed. Maybe panic starts to settle in. And if you're honest, you're wondering if you're ever going to get it back. If you ever felt that way, this conversation is for you. For nearly 4 decades, I've experienced this sport from almost every perspective. As an athlete, a professional performer, a coach, an author, and now a high-performance mindset coach. And if there's one thing that I've learned, it's this. Every athlete struggles. The difference isn't whether you struggle, it's how you learn to respond when you do. If you're a figure skater, coach, parent, or an athlete of another sport who's ever questioned yourself, doubted your progress, or wondered if you're the only one struggling, you're in the right place. Because this podcast is about more than performing under pressure. It's about learning how to grow through challenge. Every week, we'll explore the conversations athletes are already having in their own minds, but rarely say out loud. Together, we'll learn the tools to navigate those moments with confidence, curiosity, and resilience. One conversation, one lesson, one step closer to becoming an anti-fragile athlete. This season's going to be a little different. Last season, we explored confidence, pressure, fear, setbacks, resilience, and performance. This season, we're going to build something together. Over the next year, every episode is going to become part of a much bigger picture, a journey that I call the anti-fragile athlete. Because I don't believe mindset is something you learn in one conversation or with one tool. I believe it's something you continue to build, one practice, one challenge, one setback, one conversation at a time. And my mission is simple: helping athletes grow through challenge, not just perform through it. So whether you're preparing for your first competition, working towards the podium, or simply trying to become a little better than you were yesterday, you're in the right place. Because every week, we're going to build another piece of the mindset puzzle that helps athletes thrive. Not just when everything is going well, but especially when it isn't. And that's one conversation, one lesson, one step closer to becoming an anti-fragile athlete. And so today's anti-fragile conversation, every athlete has questions they don't always ask out loud. And today's question is, why have I landed it before, but I can't today? And that goes for every sport, for every skill that you were able to do yesterday and struggle with today. Today's conversation couldn't be more timely. It's the first week of July, and across Canada, skating clubs are deep into summer training. Programs are built or continuing to be built. New choreography is being learned and fine-tuned. Jump combos are changing. Spin levels are being upgraded. Off-ice training has intensified. Everyone is tired, physically and mentally. And if you're an elite skater preparing for next gen or getting ready for that first competition in August or September, you're probably feeling something else. Pressure. Pressure to have your program ready. Pressure to be landing your jumps consistently. Pressure to show improvement. And pressure to be where you think you should be by now. And that's where today's conversation begins, because one of the biggest misconceptions in this sport is, if I did it yesterday, I should be able to do it today. But that isn't how learning works. And once you understand that, I think it will completely change the way you look at your training. So let's head into the teaching segment. When I coach athletes, one of the most common things I hear during the summer sounds something like this. Christine, I don't understand. I landed my double axel yesterday. Today, I can't even come close. I've completely lost it. Or, my spins have been working so well, and today I couldn't do anything. Or maybe, I used to have this jump, now I've lost it. I hear that one a lot. Have you ever said something like that? I know as a skater, I certainly have. But here's what I want you to know. Just because your performance changes from one day to the next doesn't mean your ability has disappeared. Summer training is one of the hardest times of the entire skating season because you're asking your body to do something new, tougher, and more difficult. You're increasing training volume, building stamina, refining technique. You're adding difficulty. You're challenging your brain and your body in ways they haven't experienced before. Think about learning to ride a bike. The first time you got on it, it didn't feel easy or smooth. I know it didn't for me. You were thinking about your legs moving, feet on the pedals, keeping the handlebars from twisting side to side, how fast you were going, how to use the brakes, all at the same time. Everything felt awkward and even a little bit frightening. Everything required effort. It was difficult. Now, you probably don't even think about most of those things now. So what changed? Well, your brain learned, your body learned through repetition. Not perfect repetition, just repetition. The same thing happens in skating. When you're learning a new jump technique or a new entry to a jump you've already mastered, or a new spin variation, or maybe even an entirely new program, your body isn't forgetting. It's organizing, sorting, adapting. Sometimes progress looks like taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, one big step. That step back isn't failure. It's part of how your nervous system learns. And that's the piece I think so many athletes miss. They mistake inconsistency for regression, falling behind, an inability or a failure, when often it's just actually a sign that their body is learning something new. Think about that for a moment. How many practices have you walked off the ice believing you were getting worse, when in reality, your body was simply in the middle of building a new movement pattern? That thought alone has the power to change the way you experience practice and learning. Because if you stop judging every repetition, you create the space to learn from every repetition. And that's exactly where I want to take today's conversation next. This conversation reminds me of something I experienced years ago when I was skating professionally and preparing for an international competition, one that would be televised across the US and most of North America. When my pair partner and I first started skating together, I quickly realized that pair skating was a completely different world. As a single skater, all I ever needed to think about was my own timing, my own technique, my own body. Suddenly, everything had to happen in perfect sync with another person. I remember Dion, my partner, commenting a number of times, Christine, you can't just decide to do an extra crosscut whenever you feel like it. It was so much easier as a soloist. If I found I was a little behind the music or the pattern didn't feel quite right, I'd adapt instinctively, throw in a crosscut. Now I had to learn a whole new way of skating and thinking. And so as we prepared for the competition, we worked with Olympic coach Lee Barkell on a throw triple. I had landed triple jumps years earlier as a single skater, but this was completely different. My body kept wanting to jump the way it had always been trained, instead of allowing my partner to generate the lift and trust the timing of the throw. For weeks, it felt awkward. At first, I'd bail midair or do a double because it felt foreign, and my fear of the unknown of having a hard fall took over. Then one day, after hundreds of repetitions, something just clicked. I relaxed, trusted the movement, and landed it. It just happened one day. It was so smooth, so easy. And after that initial shock, I remember thinking, now I've got it. But here's what happened next. The very next attempt I missed. And I was so frustrated. I started thinking, if I landed it once, I should be able to land it again. But my focus had shifted from learning the skill, feeling the takeoff, to worrying about the competition, worrying about the outcome, worrying about landing it. I knew our Russian competitors had to throw triple, and suddenly every repetition felt like I had to prove we're ready, that I was worthy of competing against these Olympic skaters. Ironically, those were the days I struggled the most. The days I focused on the outcome, my body tightened, my timing was off, the training became frustrating. The days I focused on feeling the takeoff, staying patient, trusting the movement, those were the days I made the biggest improvements. And looking back, I wasn't struggling because I lacked the ability to do it. I was struggling because I was trying to skip the learning process. My attention immediately went to the outcome. I wish someone had explained that to me back then. And I wish someone had given me the tools to manage that inner conversation instead of letting it manage me. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I do what I do today. I don't want young athletes to spend years learning those lessons the hard way like I did. And I share many of these stories in my memoir, Glitz and Grit Beyond the Spotlight, because the audience only ever saw the performance. They never saw the doubts, the falls, the setbacks, the frustration, or the lessons that happened behind that spotlight. If you'd like to read more about that journey, the book is available through Indigo, Barnes & Noble, and on my website at christinereeves.ca. And we're going to move now to the parent corner. Before we finish today, I'd like to speak to the parents who are listening. I know summer training can be hard on you too. You see your son or daughter come off the ice frustrated or out of their sport frustrated and fatigued. Maybe they were landing a jump or doing a skill last week, and today they just couldn't feel it. As parents, our natural instinct is to try and fix it. We want to encourage them, solve the problem, or remind them that they're capable. But sometimes, what they need most isn't another solution, another critique, or another coach. They need to feel understood. Instead of asking, "Did you land it today?" or "What happened?" try asking, "What did you enjoy most about practice today? What did you learn today?" If they've had a bad day, "How are you doing? You okay?" Or even, "What are you proud of, even if today didn't go the way you hoped?" Those questions gently shift the focus from outcome to growth. And remember, your child already knows when they've had a difficult practice. What they need from you is a supportive place to land emotionally. Because when home becomes a place of encouragement instead of evaluation, confidence has room to grow. Now let's head over to Coach's Corner. To the coaches listening, summer is where athletes earn the confidence they'll rely on later in the season. It's also where frustration can quietly take over. One of the most powerful things we can say to an athlete is simply this: "I kind of expected this to feel awkward. Don't worry, that's normal." That one sentence normalizes the learning process. It tells the athlete they're not behind. They're exactly where learning happens. As coaches, we don't just teach technique. We teach athletes how to respond when learning feels uncomfortable, when it's starting to get frustrating. Sometimes our greatest coaching isn't technical, it's emotional. And so this week's challenge, something I'd like to leave you with, this simple little challenge this week: the next time you miss a jump, the next time a spin doesn't work, the next time you leave the rink feeling frustrated, change the inner conversation. Instead of, "What's wrong with me?" or "What's wrong with my skating?" ask yourself, "What did today teach me?" or What did all those repetitions teach me? It might be teaching you patience. It might be teaching you timing. It might even be teaching you trust. Or maybe it's simply teaching your body something it hasn't learned yet or mastered yet, and it needs the time to adapt. Find that consistency. That one question can completely change the way you experience practice. And that brings us to today's anti-fragile principle. Every repetition is teaching your body something, even the messy ones. Write that down. Think about it this week. Use it in your next practice. And so before I leave you today, I'd like to give you something practical to take with you into your next practice. I call it this week's practice challenge. Before you step onto the ice this week, take a minute and finish this sentence. Today, I'm building. Instead of, today I have to land my jump, or today I have to skate a clean program. Simply ask yourself, what am I building today? Maybe you're building better timing, or more patience, stronger edges, trust in your takeoff, or simply the confidence to keep trying. Then, when practice is over, answer one more question. What did today's practice teach me? Not did I land everything, but what did I learn? What did I do better? How did I improve? Because every practice has something to teach you, and there's always some little improvement, even in a bad practice, if you're willing to listen and look. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're looking for more support, I'd love to continue this conversation. On my website, christinereeves.ca/resources, you'll find mindset resources for skaters, parents, and coaches that you can start using right away. If you're looking for more personalized support, I offer a complimentary 20-minute coaching consultation where we can talk about your goals, your needs, what challenges you're facing, and how mindset training can become part of your performance journey. And you can learn more about that at christinereeves.ca/coaching. And if you've enjoyed today's Behind the Spotlight story, I think you'll really enjoy my memoir, Glitz and Grit Beyond the Spotlight. It's filled with stories from all my years, over 20 years of touring professionally around the world, 22 countries, and the mindset lessons that come from those experiences. Lessons that continue to shape the way I coach today. The book is available through Indigo, Barnes & Noble, and directly from my website, christinereeves.ca. So next week, we're going to continue this conversation by exploring something almost every athlete experiences during the summer. You land a new skill, maybe even a few times, and then suddenly it feels like you've lost it. Did you actually lose it? Or is something else happening inside your brain and body? We'll talk about why confidence seems to disappear, why consistency takes longer than you think, and why learning isn't nearly as predictable as we'd like it to be. So if you've ever walked off the ice wondering, where did it go? That's the conversation you don't want to miss. If you found value in today's conversation, I'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel, share this episode with a teammate, coach, or skating parent. And what's one lesson your training taught you this week? I'd love to continue that conversation with you in the comments. So thank you for spending this time with me today. And remember, we're building something together this season. One conversation, one lesson, one step closer to becoming an anti-fragile athlete. So until next time, stay connected, stay coachable, stay resilient, and keep moving forward. And remember, the goal isn't to become perfect, it's to become anti-fragile. I'm Christine Reeves Beleznay. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.